Hi, Sharon. Hey, thanks for coming on to Consciousness Awake. Somebody had mentioned your name to me a few weeks back, and I took the time to track you down and find you, and then we talked very briefly for a little bit, and invited you on to the Consciousness Awake channel to have a little video with you, and it also it gives my viewers an opportunity to be introduced to a advanced, more experienced astral projector. I know you've had hundreds, maybe thousands of
Yeah.
out of body experiences. So I want to give this opportunity to you to introduce yourself before we start our talk.
Sure. Well, thanks, Jeremy. It's an honor to be here. Thank you. Thank you. And I always enjoy talking to people about out-of-body experiences and lucid dreaming. It's probably one of my favorite, not only topics, but things to do, and exploring our consciousness. So a little bit about me. I live in the Portland, Oregon area, and I have a practice as a psychic medium, hypnotherapist, and I'm all around woo-woo girl. So whatever's woo-woo, I'm there. I also have an academy called the Kumara Academy of Transformation, where I teach metaphysical classes, including courses on out-of-body experiences and lucid dreaming and dream work and that type of thing too. So love and life, I started, if you want me to share how I started with out-of-body experiences?
Oh, sure. Actually, thank you for introducing yourself and your experience. Yeah, a question came to mind. How do you remember, like, distinctly when you started to have lucid dreaming experiences and popping out of your body and using your energy body? Do you remember when that happened, or did it just kind of happen spontaneously, and then you kind of learned what the experiences were? How did it happen for you?
Yes, I definitely remember when it started happening. And I do believe we do this all naturally anyway. It's just
Mm-hmm.
a matter of being aware of it and being
Mm-hmm.
conscious in our travels, right? So my stepfather passed in 98, and it was the first time I had lost someone close to me. So it started around that time where I started having sleep paralysis episodes, because I was studying about life after death, because I needed to know, okay, now that he's not here, where is he? What is he doing? I can't, because I was raised Catholic, never
Mm-hmm.
was a good Catholic, but I'm like, there's got to be something more than what, Catholic Church teaches this. That's
Mm-hmm.
just my opinion. Nothing
Yeah.
against, anyone else who is a Catholic, but and so I started having spontaneous sleep paralysis episodes, and I didn't know what they were. Um, as I was studying about the afterlife and things like that, mediumship, because mediumship is the only thing that made any sense to me. I was
Mm-hmm.
reading books by John Edward, excuse me, um, George, We Don't Die, the George Anderson. George Anderson, yes, We Don't Die was the first book I read on mediumship. James von Prague, the big names in in that world. And so I'm like, this is what makes sense. Now I understand, this is what makes sense. We do exist after we die. And I began having sleep paralysis, like I said, but I didn't understand it, and it scared the crap out of me because I thought I was dying.
Yeah.
And yeah, and they happened quite often. And I came upon an article on the internet at the time, and this was little over 20 years ago. So there wasn't a lot of talk about this type of thing back then. I came upon an article that talked about sleep paralysis, and the way they explained it, I'm like, that's what I'm having, where you're frozen, you're paralyzed.
You're consciously aware. You're
Yeah,
consciously aware. Your conscious mind is aware and alert, but you can't move your physical body. Yes.
right.
um, that's how it started for me. When I was maybe like 10 years old, 12 years old. I was
Mm-hmm.
really young. It was very scary because I didn't have any proper mentorship from anybody around me, and there was no internet at the time, and no YouTube, no way to facilitate like some, adequate research on the topic, right?
Right.
And so, so I found out by accident that you can do a out of body, I mean, an OBE exit, one of many different exits, right? I mean, sometimes we invent exits,
Right.
during the process. There's no right or wrong way.
Mhm.
But it was by sheer accident. But still, when I was popping out during sleep paralysis and going into my room and down the hallway and out of my parents' house at that time when I was living with them as a kid, I had no idea even what that was,
Mhm.
no clue. And so I would tell people in school about my little journeys and, experiences. And that's when I realized that, once I started talking about it, I started to realize how nobody knew what I was talking about, you know.
Right.
So it was pretty wild. I didn't learn the word I didn't learn what astral projection was
Mhm.
until I was like 20 years old. And so I already had hundreds of lucid dreamings, just waking up in the dream state, and then dozens and dozens of experiences using these other energy bodies that we have.
Right.
um, and and it just blew me away. That's when I had that aha moment, that light bulb went off, the spiritual awakening went full blown for me, in that moment when I had realized that, that I'm not just my body, you
Mhm.
know that
Mhm.
there was a consciousness, soul, and that consciousness can shift, um you know in many different ways.
Mhm.
But yeah, well, we had our little brief conversation, and you were talking about a lot of your certain types of experiences while out of body, and I found them very interesting. Did you want to maybe share one of your, one of, I mean, I can't say one of your favorite ones,
Well, I've
uh,
had thousands,
but yeah, but just like some more, maybe some more recent experience, perhaps.
okay, well, yeah, yeah. Well, let me go back to where I started,
Mhm.
because as I was having these sleep paralysis episodes, again, I didn't know what was happening to me, and
Yeah,
by accident, I came across that article,
yeah.
and it equated out of body experiences with sleep paralysis. And in the list of things that you can do with astral projection, because I didn't know what it was either, was that you could connect with deceased loved ones. I'm
Hmm.
like, oh, okay, I'll be able to find my dad.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's why I started studying about astral projection, out of body experiences, and I bought every book I could get my hands on because I'm a huge reader. And the classics, William Buhlman, Robert Peterson, those types of um, masters, who I consider masters at the time. Robert Monroe, have been to the Institute twice. And I was practicing every night, every single night. And it took me about, I'm going to say, a month to be able to project consciously, where I was out of my body and standing next to my body. I remember falling out of bed as I was practicing. I'd wake up and I roll over and I fall out of bed in my astral body, in my
Yeah,
second body, and or sitting up thinking I'm physical, because it feels very, very physical,
yeah,
trying to turn the light on, my hand goes through it, I get up, and then I realize, okay, I'm out of body, those types of things. And I moved it, like you said, moved around the house a little bit, started out doing that. My dog started traveling with me. And so that's how I started getting my feet wet in it. Okay.
hmm.
And I did find my dad.
Can I
And
ask you, how did you find your dad? I mean, did you use a certain type of method that you felt comfortable with, or you just tried some random method? How what
I
where did
just
you?
called out for him. I went
Yeah.
out as soon as I got clear to where I felt comfortable leaving my
Hmm.
house and going out and moving into the higher frequencies. I would call out. I'd call
Yeah.
out for him, and then finally he showed up. It took it like maybe 3 times, I believe, and he showed up. And he showed up in in a zoot suit. You know what a zoot suit is?
I have never heard of a zoot suit.
Okay, well, he was born in the 20s, so it's one of the hat and the suit, you know, with the
Okay,
long coat and everything.
got it.
So he showed up like that, and he was pretty ill when he passed in his 70s. So yeah, every time I saw him, he had some kind of funny outfit on. I saw him 3 or 4 times, but then I also saw my mom when she passed, and my biological dad. I was able to connect that way. And I started then I joined a group online, a spiritual group that was dedicated to astral travel, that kind of thing, and spiritual topics. And what I did was I helped people. I started doing readings in the out of body state. I helped people who had lost loved ones. I connect to their loved ones in the out of body state, that type of thing, just because I was able to induce them so easily. And so that's how it started for me. And I got hooked, of course, when you
That's correct. It changes who you are. You
it
know,
does.
it
Does,
changes your perspective on this reality that we're in. It's really amazing. And that's one reason why one of the motivations for me starting my channel last couple of years is I want everybody to experience
right.
what it's like to have your consciousness shifted, either a certain percentage out of the physical body, or slightly or halfway, because we can't. I don't believe that we can actually, when we do astral projection consciously aware, I do not believe that 100% of our consciousness is actually moving out of our human body into these other bodies. I believe it's a mix, it's a combination, and it's a scale. So maybe sometimes if we're really consciously aware in our energy body, the memory recall's perfect, we're totally aware of everything we're doing, we got good control of that energy body as we're flying or moving through the house. There's probably a larger percentage
Sure.
of consciousness that's kind of semi-integrated into that energy body at that time, but there's still a little bit in the physical body, because the physical body is not dead yet. Our body is still functioning and alive, and our body needs that energy. Yeah, the calling your dad out, I mean, like what I've done is I just take the name of whatever being or entity it is, and then I just say the name very loudly, and I kind of vibrate it out into whatever realm I'm in at that time. Right. And it usually takes 3 or 4 times. Like you said, you tried it a few times, and then you got a result from it. It works very, very well. I think that if anybody tried that method, they would have some degree of success with it. But of course, the most important aspect is, being like you said earlier, being consciously aware as you're, leaving this physicality and entering into these other realms. Have you ever had any experiences with any kind of dome, like an energetic dome, at certain levels in the etheric or astral? Have you had any experiences with that?
I have had experiences with domes. One in particular, and I've started groups and belong to groups where we meet in journeys. We plan journeys, usually around the full moon every month, and then we connect to see if we have any hits. And one of them, I don't recall making it to the journey, but I was in some kind of a dome, and this was years and years ago, but I remember when I described it on the group that someone that lived in that area or looked it up, and it was a geodesic dome in somewhere in the Northeast is what I described. She thought it looked like that, and it had grid lines or something like that in it. But other than that, I do remember being in dome-like buildings. Not that
What
many.
I was referring to more is the barriers.
You mean an energetic dome?
Yeah, yes, that's what I
Okay.
meant. I mean, from my experience, I've made videos about it, but from my experience, like the infrastructure, the energetic infrastructure of it is present, and you can see it and feel it and look at it, but it's not like active. Is my impression. It's not activated. Um, it's something that it's like an ancient relic
Okay.
from who knows when. From looking at from my own experiences looking at this energetic barrier that I feel is kind of in between the astral and the etheric realm. um, it it uh it looks like it was used as like a frequency wall, a frequency fence to perhaps keep consciousnness at a lower realm,
Sure, I've heard of that. Yeah.
but a long time ago though. So it's
Okay.
dormant now, and there's a just bunch of holes in it,
Mm.
tears, holes, cracks, portals,
Good to
astral
know.
tube. Yeah, well,
Good to know it's falling apart.
well, yeah. So I'm thinking maybe some people don't maybe run into it because maybe they kind of go to a certain area or whatnot, or maybe that it's not that where it's fallen apart more. I don't really know, but I've had a lot of experiences, uh, you know, uh, going through that barrier, and going through portals, and even stopping and actually examining it with my energy body hand as I'm flying up, and then kind of bouncing on it
Oh, I've
and
done that before.
pushing it up and
Yeah.
down. And then
Hmm.
sometimes you can just like go right through it.
Hmm.
And so if I go through it, I just end up in just like a random low astral world, reality construct, just complete randomness. And then if I don't like where I've gone randomly, then I just reality shift. I think we talked about the spinning technique and doing projecting from one spot to another spot using the spinning technique and your
Sure.
intention, your
Right.
intent.
And affirmations too. Affirmations help me as well.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I haven't used those a lot myself, but it's definitely something that I do believe works very well. You mentioned William Buellman
Buellman,
earlier.
yeah. Mhm.
What he has an affirmation, right, that he
Yeah.
uses.
I use a lot of his affirmations. Clarity. I use clarity now if I feel myself fading back.
Clarity
I use
now.
clarity now, and that works a lot. I had an out of body or projection last week, and I used that at least 4 or 5 times within the projection. That kept me anchored.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I noticed like using the energy body,
Mhm.
and doing something with it.
Touching something solid
Yeah,
helps too. Yeah.
absolutely. Trees and the
Right.
ground. I've meditated while in an out of body experience, and just laying down wherever I may be at that given moment, and then meditating into a different plane.
Yeah.
A different
Yeah.
what actually does that come that brings up a question for me. So for me, it's like there's I find that the afterlife, and that these more energetic planes, that they're a little more complex. There's a little more complexity to all of this than what we're actually told. I mean, not to mention that there's thousands, if not millions, of different astral reality constructs,
Hmm.
just scattered all across the astral plane structure. It's very vast and
Yeah.
complicated.
Hmm.
And there's so many different heaven-like places, so many different like okay places, so many hellish-like places. the energy, the smell, the energy, everything just kind of varies and fluctuates in that whole realm. Do you find that to be true too from your experiences?
That there are different
Oh,
realms.
just huge variations.
Oh, yes,
of
yes, totally. And I find that it varies according to my frequency and where I'm at the time. And when I project now, I very rarely project on the earth plane anymore in my room or anything like that. I usually wake up and I'm somewhere and and I'm conscious. That's basically the way I project now, or I stay in intention. I'm saying my affirmations before I go to sleep. When I wake up, I'd say my affirmations, and then I just wake up somewhere and I'm fully wide awake. And I can be in a different body. I can be me. I've projected to other planets in non-human bodies, in human bodies where it's me but not me kind of thing. Where I'm flying a ship. Recently, I projected to where I was with some other people, and I was young. We were young, like the secret space program thing
Oh,
is
yes.
really got me digging into my experiences for the last 20 years. And I was holding some EMP rifles and shooting bots. So I'm like, okay, this is crazy. But yeah, I mean, I was there and I was part of it. So and I was aware of me and who I was there. So those have been my experiences recently. I wouldn't call that profound, but it was definitely very real, another reality.
Yeah, and just another example of how there's just so many different types of worlds out there.
Yes. Yeah.
Different timelines, futuristic, past, high tech, low tech. I've been to like AI kind of worlds where they're basically just ruled by AI, and it's very robotic.
Yeah, I've seen a couple worlds like that, robotic machinery type of thing. And there's people there too, but they're like slaves. They're the workers, and it's ruled by AI. Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's sheer madness, like just how complicated and perplexing the larger reality system.
Well, it's so diverse. I feel like anything we can imagine, is
correct, because consciousness manifests, and consciousness manifests at different speeds and degrees depending on what type of physical matter or physical energetic matter it's in, or energetic matter. I have found that whenever I'm in a pretty stabilized, consciously aware, out of body experience, and I'm just manifesting within energetic matter, which is more of what the astral structure is made of, just like the Akashic records, it's just pretty much just made out of energetic matter. There's probably still a small sliver of matter, of physical matter, blended into that. Like here in this world we call the Earth Matrix, we call this physical reality, just a bunch of labels and stuff. But I believe that even here in this human form, we're not all physical. We're not all matter. We are a combination, probably more of a 50-50 mesh of energy and matter. And so, and some people might think that's just bananas, right? That's just crazy,
Well, it's a slow frequency. It's a very slow frequency. So that's what creates the solidness, what we feel is solid.
The vibrational frequency. Yeah.
I'd like to share some of my profound experiences. You did, sorry to interrupt you.
Oh,
Jeremy.
oh,
But,
sure. No, keep going, keep
okay.
going. My viewers are very interested and they want to hear everything. So,
So these were I mean, I have amazing experiences all the time. I mean, how could you not when you're traveling, the universe, the multiverse? But one of my first profound experiences when I first started projecting, and after my all of my projections are after my stepfather passed. So conscious projections. I just woke up in front of my mom's house, and she was still alive, and I am get this impression to look up at the sky, and I look up and I see what looks like a flock of geese. Okay. And I'm thinking, oh, that's cool. And then all of a sudden I hear this really beautiful angelic music and singing. And as this flock of what I think is geese flies toward me, I realize that it's angels. It's a flock of angels flying in a V formation.
wow.
I know. And it was I mean, just gorgeous. And I when you're in the out of body state, you can zoom in 360-degree also sight, but you could zoom in. So I zoomed in some, not all the way, because their frequency was really high. And so,
Of course, yeah.
but I'm just in amazement of these angels, and they fly on by, and then I hear or get the strong impression that it was a gift from my dad.
Huh.
Yeah. So that was really cool. I had seen angels. I've probably seen angels 5 or 6 times, but that was my first encounter with angels. Another really profound experience in the beginning of my travels was when I'm projecting from in my room, and I project away from, as soon as I project, when I'm projecting in my room, I get away from my body as quickly as possible, because that magnetic pull will pull you back in.
It's
At least for me.
that's the etheric connection.
Right, the silver
Because
cord,
our
yeah.
etheric body is like glued
Mm-hmm.
to our physical body.
Especially when as an adult. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm starting to move away, and something tells me to turn around and look in the bed, look back. And I turn around, and I was sleeping by myself at the time. I turn around and I see my body, although I don't know it's my body, in the bed. And I see blonde hair and the blanket up to here. And I'm thinking to myself, who is that laying in my bed? Who is that? And it hits me, oh wait, that is my body.
Yeah.
But that's not me. I had no attachments, felt no attachment to that body. What came to mind was it was just a bag of bones. And I knew that this light, this consciousness, was really who I am.
Yeah.
That was really huge for me,
Yeah.
because we are so programmed to identify as our bodies.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only way this Earth matrix survives,
Right.
is by having the programming that's instilled within it. It's very systematic, and it hits everybody as they're really little, really young.
Right.
And so by the time you're 5, 6, 7 years old, you're getting into the educational process. You've already been programmed quite a lot, and then the schooling process gives you that extra programming nudge.
Sure.
And that pretty much centers you pretty well. It centers your consciousness. I don't want to say it traps it, I don't want to sound negative, but it kind of traps and isolates it inside this physicality. And then, of course, throw in the fact that, as we grow up as kids and young adults, teenagers, we're not told anything about our energy bodies or astral projection, or I feel like this is like the real spiritual awakening stuff. People, right, if they want to have, viewers who are watching this video right now, I mean, if you are trying to actually develop spiritually and develop your awareness and consciousness, I have bad news for you. The only way you can really do that is by learning astral projection and learning how to use your consciousness and to its fuller capability, not just in this physical form. That's really the only way to get more answers, experiences. Of course, Sharon and me, we don't have all the answers, obviously. We're just experiencers, and we're dissecting all of this, and we're trying to figure it all out. But it's a process, and it's a journey. That's why it's called a journey, right? And you got to get on the ride, and you've got to push yourself a little bit to try to have these experiences, because these are the only kind of experiences that can help an individual, evolve spiritually. Now, that said, though, and don't worry, I'm not going to talk too much. I'll give you a chance to talk. But that said, though, from my own experiences too with getting out of body, I have realized how your own journey is super important. But if another consciousness, makes the decision to become part of a soul group or like an organization, a religious organization, and they want to give their soul and their consciousness, to that organization, and that's what makes them happy, right? And there's no one to tell them that they're wrong for doing that, because from what I've seen is that almost every church or a certain particular soul group has a heavenly construct in the astrals,
right?
And then by these individuals coming together, their frequency doesn't match identically, but it becomes like a harmony, or it becomes close enough to where they're resonating with each other.
Well, it's just like here.
Just like here, exactly, just on a different scale, of course. And so what I hate is when people who are into astral projection, or they're going down this kind of pathway, and when they just sit around and talk in a negative way about people who have made their own decisions to how they want to utilize their consciousness, being in a certain group or church or religious organization. I feel that that's wrong. I feel that people need to understand that how reality actually works is we resonate through vibrations and frequencies to whatever that is.
Sure.
So people like
that's like Eckankar. Are you talking about Eckankar?
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I might have heard that name before a little, but I'm not really familiar with it. But people need to know that. So if you have a friend who is happy with their religious belief structure, then so be it. They will get what they want. They will have, for the most part, they will get what they are seeking with their consciousness. If they're conscious of that or unconscious of that fact, they're gonna have that. Now, I've made that decision. I've made the decision for myself that I don't want to join any particular group or religion or any of that. I've chosen to just be independent and just go on my own personal journey, like a lot of other people do too. So here's my next question. Since you yourself are kind of in that spiritual journey, right? You're kind of solo, you're independent, right?
Sure.
How do you view your own afterlife? Have you ever pondered that, or thought about that? From your experiences and your insights, how have those played into how you view your own afterlife?
Well, it's always my goal to raise my frequency as high as possible when I do project. And my goal is to be able to reach as high as I can in the afterlife. And that helps me. And then I can drop down in any frequency that I want. And because I believe that we still exist and we still do things that we love to do. I know this because I've experienced it and I do it there. So, and I have jobs. I help people. I do spirit rescue. I still work with people here, that kind of thing. So my vision of the afterlife is basically not a lot different, except it's just in a higher frequency
You're
where I
just
don't
centered. You're just more centered
yeah, I
there.
don't have bills to pay. I don't
Yeah.
have, I can fly. I don't have to
Yeah.
walk everywhere, I feel lighter. I'm younger, but I'm doing what I want to do, and which is being of service, helping people, and also having a very happy frequency, happy life, happy heart, happy soul,
Yeah.
all of that, just being in joy, and also being who I meant to be, and loving
Yeah,
my life in all frequencies.
that's really great. So it seems like you're just kind of naturally progressing through all of that, right? And you just know in your heart and your consciousness kind of where that's all leading to. And that's true. Well, I mean, what is true is, yes, you can. At moment of death, or right before death, you can focus your consciousness to shift to the highest plane possible. Let's say a high mental plane, or to the higher part of the astral structure, which I mean, people disagree with me, but I feel that the mental plane or that zone is still in the astral plane structure. That's just kind of how I see that. So more or less, we're all just kind of part of this vast astral structure, one way or another. Unless now, I want to hear your thoughts on this. So I have my own opinion about ghosts and earthbound spirits / ghosts. I've seen a lot of them while out of body, especially when I was younger. And when like you said, when you start to project in the beginning, you tend to project more in that first plane above the physical plane, which I call the etheric plane. And so in that etheric plane, that's where I see these what I would consider ghosts. And so I'm losing my train of thought a little bit. I apologize. It's really late at night.
Right.
But I think my question was, have you ever tried to help? Like you mentioned spirit rescue before and those kinds of things. Have you ever actually run into just ghosts and earthbound spirits and tried to maybe communicate with them or teach them about the astral structure or anything
All
like
the time.
that? Oh, you do? Oh.
All the time. Yeah.
That's
it's part of
so
my
funny.
job when I'm there,
Yeah.
apparently. Yeah, because I do that here too. So I found that what we do here, we do there, and vice versa. So yeah, all the time I've come across people that are not aware that they're dead.
Yeah.
They're still doing the
Unconscious.
same thing that they are doing here. In a loop. And I also do soul retrieval, which is a ghost part of us, right? A personality that's a ghost. And I do that here in the physical plane. So yeah.
The loop, when you said the loop, that made me think about like let's say a ghost that was maybe that went through some severe trauma, like they were murdered or something.
Right.
And then they I know what you mean about that. It's almost like an imprint, like an impression in the etheric. Again, I'm calling it the etheric plane, but it's like a certain ether. To me, it's like this like reflective mental ether, because there's different types of ethers. And this mental reflective ether, it seems, it captures that impression of that traumatic, highly emotional event. And then that word you use, looping, where it just loops the same impression over and over again. And when you see these beings, I try to call everything beings because we're all beings, right? You know, for the most part, instead of using words like entities. But this being, I find that they're, like you said, they're very, how would you say? I wouldn't want to say like zombified, like a zombified state, you know.
Well, they're kind of asleep.
Yeah, but unconscious
Right.
kind of you know, feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And I've actually had some fun with in the etheric plane and also in these different astral worlds, where I'll just try to show people how to levitate and how to fly up into the sky.
I do that too.
And so you do that too. Yeah, I did that when I was like, I don't know, 20 years old or something like that. And, and I remember how that interaction and how even though a being can be centered in an astral plane structure, how they still don't have any clue to what their actual ability is. It's almost like some of these worlds are led by certain gods, and they suppress people, they suppress beings spiritually, so that they can't live up to their potential. It's kind of what happens here, actually.
Well, yeah, I think it's Robert Monroe calls them belief system territories.
Yes.
Where people are attracted, you know, together, and they group together that have the same belief system. And so they go by the rules, they abide by the rules of that territory, and things may be better than it was here, so they think they're in heaven, right?
Yeah.
It's some form of heaven to them because they're not struggling as much like they were here. I've come across neighborhoods, really nice neighborhoods, and they're using cell phones, right? And so it's like, you know, why are you using a cell phone? You don't need a cell phone here.
Yeah.
Goes, oh yeah, well, we all use them here.
It's almost like, you know, as you were describing that, you know, it makes me feel sometimes like this Earth matrix is like just another astral reality construct in a way.
I know.
But just
I think about that all the time.
But just in a different
Did I die and I don't know it?
Yeah. Well, we've all died. We're all dead already.
We're all dead already. Yeah.
You know, we're all, I used to say that back in high school. We're already dead. We've died, you know, so then that makes you feel like, you know, they're really these words, being born, dying, they're just words, but
they are, yeah.
But it's just this avatar body that's going through that reproduction process, self-replication process of this biomechanism, or the malfunctioning of this physical body to where we can't operate anymore, and consciousness has to vacate, has to leave. And
then we find another avatar.
Well, we already have them because we have our energy bodies. I also don't think that everyone has the same amount of energy bodies. I think there's some variations there. Also, I believe that not everybody is using their etheric body for astral projection. They're using it. They're using it in the process of getting into their astral body. They're utilizing it, but they're not actually consciously using the etherical energy body to move around in it. So there's different types, like you were talking about, there's different types of bodies. I've experienced several different types of bodies where I've examined my arms. I've looked at my body. One of my astral bodies has just thousands of little tiny stars all over my arm. I call that the star body. Because I look at it and I just see stars, tiny stars and constellations. But it's still a body, though. I'm still, you know, I'm still using it. You know, I'm not. Its consciousness still shifted in a different form. William Buhlman, you know, I remember hearing him talk a few years ago. And I remember him expressing how he projects through these bodies and different layers, and then he gets to the point of where he's just consciousness, and he's not in a body anymore.
Right.
Have you experienced that?
I believe I have. Maybe I'm just not aware of it because I don't always know that I have a body, if that makes any sense. I don't always examine myself.
Oh, sometimes you're just focused on whatever you're
I'm
doing.
flying around, and because I've
Yeah.
been in pretty high planes where I'm I mean the flowers are singing to me, that kind of thing, you know, right?
The flutes. The air sounds like flutes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so gorgeous and such a amazing frequency.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I don't even think about it. I'm
Yeah.
just enjoying the experience, so I don't really know.
I'm just so I question everything. I try to observe everything. I try to collect data. I do. I try to approach it, even though I'm not a scientist, you know, I'm just a normal, just a regular person. I mean, you know, just I have a regular job, that kind of stuff, you know. But I've been very scientific in my approach of how I've assessed these bodies, and but again, everyone's I don't think that everyone has the same set of bodies, because
oh yeah,
I've been
I would
on
agree
a
with that.
body where I can see other people's bodies while I'm on a body. And sometimes I see people who don't have an energy body.
You're talking about people on the earth plane.
On the earth plane.
In physical.
In physical. So if I'm in that real time zone,
right,
I'm like a ghost in the physical plane, but in the frequency of the etheric energy body, and I'm moving around. Maybe like about, I don't know, maybe 60% or 75% of people while they're sleeping. And mind you, I've projected a lot, you know, early morning hour, you know, like 4 a.m., 5. And there's a lot of times.
That's my favorite time.
People are just in their beds and stuff, or that kind of thing. And so I'll go into people's houses and do things, and nothing bad. I mean, you know, I'm just exploring, you know. I believe in the law of not infringing, you know, not infringing on other consciousness. It's one of my fundamental principles. But just from observation mode, like 70% of people as they're sleeping, I could see their etheric body. And then, like, you know, 30% of the time they don't have one. You know, that's one of the things that have kind of mystified me over the years, trying to figure out why that is, or is it maybe that the etheric body was just, you know, totally gone
off somewhere doing something?
I don't know. I have no idea. I also see when I see little kids sleeping, like little kid, like, you know, like 3 or 4, just randomly. They have like a very small etheric body. It's almost like as we get older and we get to like age like 10, 12, or teenage years, the etheric body then is kind of like takes more shape and takes more form. So like the energy of the body is always there because it's a vital, you know, life force for our physical mechanism to operate, and our chakras and everything, all those types of things. Whole other topic, obviously. But it's almost like there's a growing process of that body too. So it's not like, you know, we're just born, day one born as a baby, and then we have this, you know, like regular, you know, etheric energy body that's just attached to us. So it changes. It changes in its energy. It changes in its size. I'm not the only one, but there are a lot of people that do believe that when the physical body dies, that our consciousness, for the most part, just shifts into that etheric energy body, and it just stays there temporarily. And then that body dies also. And then you go to your astral body. Or sometimes you bypass it altogether, and you just go automatically to your astral body. So like in this conversation earlier, you're talking about projecting to the highest plane. I think if a person is doing that, then it would only make sense that they're bypassing basically their etheric energy body. They're bypassing that second death in the etheric body, and you're just moving past it all. So I think there's a lot of truth to that. Sorry, I started rambling. I tend to
wanted to, it
ramble.
made me, no, that's okay. It made me think of a projection I had when you were talking about different bodies, where I projected out in the backyard here at my house, and it was misting out. It was dark, and when you project outside or in the dark, you can still see.
Yeah,
it's not dark,
it's darker,
you can't
but
see.
You can still see. Yeah,
you can still see, and it's nighttime. It's a difference between night and day, but you can still see. And it was misty outside. I live in Oregon, so that happens a lot. So, but the mist was lit up around me. It was beautiful and lit up. I thought, well, wow, that's beautiful. I was fascinated by how beautiful the mist was. And I believe it was the next day, I took my dog for a walk, and it was still misting, and it was misting out, for in the physical world. And I took my dog for a walk, and I had a flashlight with me, and I was shining the flashlight, and the mist looked exactly like it did when I was projected with the flashlight. When I was shining the flashlight through the mist, I'm like, oh, that was my light body that was lighting up the mist. It just hit me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was really cool. So I obviously was in my light body at that time, whatever I'm not like you where I analyze these things. I just go with it, and I'm like, okay, well, this is cool. One time I looked in the mirror, because sometimes I look in the mirror to see what I look like or how I am.
Yeah.
And I just had one eye right in the middle of my forehead. I didn't have these two eyes. I just had one eye, one big eye right here. Which I thought was kind of crazy.
But it was in the mirror image. It was
the mirror image.
I mean, it looked like you.
It was me. It was me.
It was your essence. It was your look, all that.
The way I looked, yeah.
But you had the eye right there.
Well, I looked younger. I looked younger, but I had a third. I just had an eye right here. I just looked at myself and I had an eye. I was wearing something different. A lot of times, almost all the time when I look in a mirror, I'm wearing something different. I look younger. I'm yeah.
And that's what most people, it's common, and most people do. They're like NDEs or OBEs, which I think are all kind of similar in a way. They're very. I think we're.
Now, I will say in my NDEs, sorry to interrupt you, Jeremy. In my NDEs, I did. I don't know if you had seen any of those, but I had two. And one when I was 9 and one in 2001, and I was met by Jesus both times, or who I recognize as Jesus. And I did. Every time I talk about it, I get emotional. I did reach those planes. The first one when I was a little girl, I was in the void, and I didn't understand what the void was. I didn't know what it was.
Astral voids, yeah.
It was the void where I'm connected to everything. So it wasn't an astral void. It was because I've been through in the astral void.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's a secondary void. Okay.
It's the void, whatever it is, I don't know, but it's where I was connected to all of consciousness. Okay. And I had no, I could bring my awareness in and out.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, it was, and as a 9-year-old little girl, I mean, this was so, I mean, anyway, it was
You were so
amazing.
young. Yeah.
But I still had the awareness of my soul,
Mm-hmm.
my soul awareness. So,
Mm-hmm. Your thoughts and everything. Yeah.
well, what I'm saying is I wasn't looking at things through the eyes of a 9-year-old. I had my soul awareness.
Yeah,
I knew
there are, I've actually run into probably a handful of people who've had very similar NDE experiences. Very, very, very similar to how you just described that. It's very interesting. And again, the whole, complexities and vastness of the whole, larger reality system and structure, how we can all also have so many different types of experiences, in these near-death experiences. I'm I use a lot of discernment. I've used discernment just naturally throughout my life. I'm just that kind of person, and that kind of do use that and implement that when I'm out of body, just with my instinct. Even when I was a kid, if I felt like something was, if I wasn't feeling the vibes, and I'd back away from it. I mean, that said, though, as a young person, yes, I did have some hellish experiences on a body, but I also knew that I could just go back to my human body when I wanted to, and just evade, escape whatever that situation was. So I had that safety net, but I feel like there is a lot of manipulation, and there are a lot of just demonic beings that do take advantage of other consciousness, especially in just those lower areas of the astrals, and even maybe possibly into the mid-range of the astrals, quite possibly. And so sometimes I feel like, and again, this is just my own opinion, right? I'm not telling people what to believe or anything, but in my opinion, my intuition kind of tells me that sometimes when people do see a loved one, their mom, their grandmother, Jesus, religious figures, these kinds of things, that they're just holographic projections. And that sometimes these beings are just trying to take advantage of people. Now,
Star Trek did an episode on that.
Please, but Sharon, please tell me I'm just paranoid.
You're paranoid. You're paranoid because no one could tell me this was a holographic projection with my encounters with Jesus. Yeah, and I mean, I was not religious at all.
Yeah,
I've never come across anything demonic. I've never come across anything like that. I mean, I've been to lower realms for sure, where I felt yucky, was trying to get out of there, that kind of thing. But I've never come across anything demonic. I have, in my experiences with Yeshua, I call him Yeshua, throughout my life, because he's now my main dude, that it was real.
Yeah.
It was physically real.
You said something very key there. You said that when you had that experience, you weren't really like some super religious person.
No.
So case in point, that does make it very real, and people should really listen to what you're saying right now.
Wow.
But that said, though, I still do think that there is manipulation, in these non-physical realm, and I shouldn't say non-physical realm, just these other dimensions. And I do feel like people are targeted and tricked. And I've seen things myself. I don't know why. I mean, there's like I guess it's like split, there's certain people have experience, not of my experience, they notice these kind of things. And then the other half just kind of, they just feel like it doesn't exist. So, I mean,
all I can say is it hasn't existed for me.
Yeah. Yeah, well, maybe you're making a point here, which is, even if it does exist, that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to exist within your own consciousness.
Right.
We have that decision to make as an individual unit of consciousness, like Tom Campbell would say, that in this quantum moment, through our consciousness, we can filter out what we want to filter out. We can control what we don't want in our mental field, et cetera, et cetera. And so we are powerful beings, and we can do that kind of stuff. And then sometimes we get kind of sucked in to just all kinds of crazy ideas.
Well, I think we manifest our fears too. If we have something, and thoughts, that thoughts are manifest very quickly in the higher planes. And so if we want to have a practice with astral travel, I find it's really important to study up on it so that you know what to do when you come across something that is, crazy or scary or whatever. And the more you know and the more you learn about it, I find that the more you'll enjoy it and the more you'll rise up and the more you'll be able to work through your fears. Because I found when my fears were manifesting, it took me a little while to be able to just face it. And I'm like, oh, there's nothing that can hurt me here. I know there's nothing that can hurt me in the astral planes. I know that.
Have you ever seen the astral spiders? No, they just look like huge, blobby, dark spiders.
Is that something in your psyche that you're afraid of spiders?
No. I see. I never knew about that.
I never heard of astral spiders.
So let me explain really quick. So I've never heard of astral spiders either, and then I just started to run into them just out of nowhere. And the first time I ran into one, I got out of body. And it was just in the corner of my bedroom, and it's from the floor to the ceiling. It's huge, and it had like a kind of a high pitched frequency, a really annoying frequency. And so I looked at it, and I veered to the right and went right straight down the hallway and into my bathroom down the hallway. And then I was in my energy body looking at the mirror in the bathroom, and I could see how it's pulsating. I could see how it's vibrating at a little faster rate. It looks similar to my physical body. And then a second later, that astral spider basically came right behind me through the wall, and it was right behind me. And these huge tentacles. And I was looking at it, but in the mirror. And so it was like in my blind spot. So if I didn't have that mirror, I wouldn't know it was there, obviously, right? But I could see it in the mirror. And then I said, I can see you, whatever you are, I can see you. And so as soon as it registered that I acknowledged that I could see it, it went away. But mind you, I have never heard of these things until I just kind of just stumbled into it in a projection. So that told me that wasn't necessarily a manifestation of my own fears, right? Or
I've learned a trick. Yeah, I've learned a trick that I use, and it really helps. Is I read about this method in Preston Dennett's. You know Preston Dennett?
Not familiar.
Okay. All right. Well, he wrote a book about out-of-body experience. He's a UFO researcher, and he's been on my show a few times, but cool guy. But I've learned this trick from him is to affirm all illusions disappear now. All illusions disappear now. And it works.
Yeah. I think I've just tried that just by accident, here and there, and that's true. It's really interesting how, I'll wake up sometimes And I mean, not now. I mean, but when I was younger, like 20 years ago, I'll just wake up in sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I'm going to get out of body now. I'm going to roll out, or, levitate up, or spin, or do whatever. And then I'll just see the nastiest looking demon, just hovering right in front of me. And it happened a few times, and then sometimes it would just stand by my bed, right? And then I knew I just had this. My gut was saying, no, it's not real. It's not real. It's just a manifestation of some kind of subconscious thing, or some fear. Who knows what's going on? And so I kept going. I really worked through those fears just kind of on my own. I didn't talk to anybody about it. I was on my, it was my own thing. And you're right. I believe to a really high degree, we have the ability to just kind of like let go of all that stuff. But I think it comes with practice. It comes with practice. Just like when I would get out of body in my 20s, there'd be a lot of noises and knocking on the walls and the voices. And then I just kept going and kept going, even though it was kind of freaky and scary. I kept going and going. And then it got to the point of where now it's like just a slight little buzz, a slight little, like an insect flapping its wings. Just like a little hum for like a couple seconds, and I'm just out. It's very smooth. And like a couple months ago, I had a few out of bodies in a row when I was sleeping on the couch, and it was such a clean exit to where I mean, it was quiet. There was no noise. There was no voices. There's no banging. There's no nothing. It's just pristine and quiet and peaceful. And then I always just go through my front door, because my front door goes out to a big grassy lawn area. It's nice and open. You can see the sky, trees, nature. And then that's like where I kind of recenter myself once I get out there. And then I'm like trying to remember, what was my intention again? What was I wanting to do? What was that a couple of days ago that I wanted to, call someone's name or try a certain thing and all that kind of stuff. And
it's easy to forget when you're out of body.
Sometimes
very easy to forget.
Sometimes we become consciously aware in like a spontaneous out of body experience, and it just takes us that extra few seconds to reach our memories, to remember what we were thinking. But when I had my spiritual awakening when I was 20, like I just realized what consciousness was. And then I realized, wow, consciousness is a lot of stuff. It's not just awareness. I mean, the people watching this video right now are, tuning into it, and they're, using their thoughts and everything. And, practically everything you are feeling right now with your mind, in a way, and your memories and emotions, everything, that it's like that is your consciousness. Because when I'm out of my body, and I know I'm out of my body, it's not a dream. I know the difference between a dream or waking up in a dream simulation, or being out of my body. There's a distinct difference to me. And the mind I have, and the memories and the emotions and everything I have, are basically identical to what I have now, sitting here in my human body talking to you, doing this video. It's the same thing. So when people have these experiences, they really realize the significance of consciousness. And yet there's still scientists and many people in this earth matrix that even deny the existence of there even being consciousness. You know, and so it's like, you know, you have to sometimes have these experiences, you know, to feel what it feels like,
I
right?
agree. I think
I mean,
people have to have their own experiences.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, and that's what, like you said earlier, that everyone, my goal is to help people be able to do this on their own. I mean, shamans do it, yogis do it. You know, it's natural for us. It really is. We just forgot how. And to be conscious in our nighttime travels is
Mhm.
huge. I think it's probably the most important thing we can do for our spiritual progress, like you were saying. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
yeah, absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree. Do you know? I don't mean to bring up the time question, but I don't see a
11:55.
Oh no, I was asking
Oh,
how long the video has gone. Um, I think it's
well, it's
been what, about an hour and 10 minutes,
okay. Yeah,
is it? Oh,
I think so. I don't know what time we started, but right now it's 11:56.
oh, I see that. Yeah, I was trying to
Okay.
find on the recording if there was actually a timer on there. I don't see anything. That's so weird. Uh,
No, no.
but yeah. You know, I talked to you for on the phone just briefly a couple weeks ago, and yeah, I can't believe you're in Oregon too. So
I
that
know,
was kind
right?
of
It's
cool.
funny. That's right. You're in Oregon. I
Yeah,
forgot. Yeah.
that's right.
You're in Portland too.
So I'm outside of Portland,
Yeah, me too.
but close enough. But yeah, there's only two astral projectors
In
at
Oregon,
least
yeah.
in this area, this neck of the woods.
Didn't know their stuff at least.
But there are you know, there's I know several other people who've you know, for years have been, you know, practicing the art of astral projection and having experiences, and they're all, you know, kind of around, you know, this Portland
In
area.
Oregon? Oh,
Oh yeah,
nice to hear.
definitely. And there were a couple astral projection events a few years before the pandemic, before the, you know, whole thing in 2020.
Hmm.
I did some speaking stuff, some talks down in Portland.
Oh
uh
yeah,
there was
cool.
there was a couple few hundred people down to some of those events,
Nice.
and they were just so interested. I was actually about to do more speaking with that particular group.
What group
Uh,
is that? I did
uh,
one for
Spirit, I believe it was
McMinimans.
Spirit in Transition.
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
sure if you've heard of them. Now, the guy who started Spirit in Transition, he is not in Portland anymore. He's in either California now, or no, he's in Florida. He's in Florida. So, but he was the main, like, you know, organizer, you know, or person in charge of all of that. But I'm sure that if he never moved out of Portland, I'm sure that, you know, the last year or two, that would have been fun to do more, you know, more events and
Sure.
things, and that would have been awesome to have you come to those
Oh,
too.
I would love
You
to.
know.
I did a presentation for MUFON and
Mhm.
McMinimans. Do you remember the Paranormal Pub
Yes,
night? Okay.
McMinimans. Which McMinimans?
It was a Mission Theater.
Oh, nice. That's really great. Yeah, some of
Yeah,
these.
I did one there, and then my sister and I did one at because we do paranormal photography. We did one at Kennedy School
Oh,
as well.
nice.
Hmm.
Yeah. Have you ever been to the Grand Lodge
Hmm.
in Forest Grove?
Yeah.
I swear that building is haunted.
I think they all are, but yeah, that one's
Yeah.
totally haunted.
It's pretty obvious. I've had a few interesting experience, paranormal experiences over at that McMinimans there in Forest Grove on that property. And
Right.
they and all of those, I believe it was three times, and all three times it was a full moon. Every time, like clockwork, you know.
You know, the full moon is is a really good time for me to project. I've kept track of my
Mhm,
you know, when's good and when
mhm.
isn't. And I've noticed that the full moon, right around the full moon is is my strongest time for projecting. And also the waxing moon is better for me than the waning moon.
Yeah, there has been some debate on that, from different people. But I think there is something to that, because at least my spontaneous stuff, where I'm not, meditating, I'm not doing anything to have out of bodies, the spontaneous stuff does tend to go around the full moon.
Yeah.
And yeah, very, very, very true. Very true.
And everyone might be different too, but that's what I notice works for me.
Yeah. I mean, you notice trends with things, right? Or whatever connects, and then that's how a lot of things are. We just kind of like fine tune what works for us,
right?
Just like
right.
OB exit techniques, how the rollout technique works really great for certain people, a lot of people. That's the one that I just did accidentally as a teenager, where I would just think that I rolled on the floor with my body, and then all of a sudden I can hear my physical body breathing above me in the bed, doing its sleep breath,
right.
And then I was like, who is in my bed? Right. And so it's just crazy. But it's a little past midnight now. And so I think we're gonna close the video up. But thank you so much, Sharon, for spending this time late at night to do a video with me. I'll look forward to uploading this video the next couple days.
Okay.
And we will have Sharon will send me her information, all her contact info for you guys. And then as soon as I have that, when I upload the video soon, I'll put everything down in the details, in the description box, pardon me. And so that you guys can connect more with her, and hopefully Sharon sometime in the future will like to come back and maybe talk about some other topics.
Sure.
Something else, other kinds of experiences. That would be really interesting.
Sure.
But thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeremy. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
I will talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.